Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the greatest recordings ever. And today, we're talking about a piano classic. Yes. Well, at least the works are classics, and actually the recording is too, in my view. Chopin, the complete Scherzos and Ballades, on one handy-dandy disc featuring Earl Wild on his own Ivory Classics label. This is an amazing recording. I mean, Earl Wild was one of the greats, as we all know. An astonishing interpretive artist and technician at the same time, and a real character if you've read his autobiography, which I recommend very strongly. It's kind of chatty and repetitious, and it's just packed full of juicy nuggets and all kinds of fun stuff. And you kind of get a sense of the man in listening to him play the piano. There is that sort of effortless virtuosity and a joy in just reveling in the thickets of notes and sonorities that he's able to create. It's just so much fun. It really is. And, to get recordings of the complete ballades and the complete scherzos neatly packaged on a single disc is kind of rare. I mean, it's been done, but it's kind of rare. You don't find them all together. Usually pianists like to do one of the ballades, usually the first or the fourth, right? And the second scherzo, it's just the one in B flat minor. Yeah, that's the one. They just don't get done as a clump. And they're great as a clump because they're highly varied and individualistic works, and yet they are part of a genre, part of a type. And so it's wonderful to be able to hear them as a group. I mean, I don't always play all four of them at once. There are 4 scherzos and 4 ballades, as I'm sure many of you know. I don't always play them all together, but it's fun to be able to. It's like listening to a symphony because there's just so much music packed into each one of these things, even if they're short forms, relatively speaking. And they tend to inspire others to effusive commentary. They print some of the effusive commentary in the booklet that I thought I would share with you. Robert Schumann, in 1836, Chopin's works are cannons buried among flowers. Actually, I kind of like that line. In other words, they have an unsuspected amount of power beneath the incredibly elegant and beautiful surface. I like that. That's really kind of true, isn't it? And he could have just said, well, they're very pretty, but they have unexpected power. But no, cannons buried among flowers. Lovely line. And then we've got Oscar Wilde. Well, here's a man to talk. After playing Chopin, I feel as if I had been weeping over sins that I had never committed and mourning over tragedies that were not my own. Well, Oscar Wilde was certainly one to talk about sins that he had or had not committed and tragedies that were not his own. So there you go. I mean, that's so romantic, isn't it? I mean, that kind of heavy-duty romantic verbiage, it's just delicious. And that's what you want to hear, quite frankly, on the verbal equivalent when you hear performances of this music. And that's what Earl Wild gives us. But the point is, Earl Wild was a romantic to the manner born. In other words, it came naturally to him. It's not an affectation. It's not something that he turns on or turns off with a switch. It was who he was. And so when he plays this music, especially if you listen to, the third scherzo I thought was particularly appealing in that respect, and also the big ballades 1 and 4. I mean, the rubato is so natural, the ebb and flow of the melody, knowing when to bring out an inner voice, when to highlight something. It just all flows beautifully and fits. And you get a feeling of this incredible spontaneous rush of emotion. And I think that's really what, in some respects, the music's all about, at least according to Chopin. According to Chopin and Oscar Wilde, that's what you should be getting out of it for sure. There's all of this wonderful expressiveness, but it never turns maudlin, and it never once sounds like an affectation. And that's the important thing, because so many pianists these days, they start with the rubato, they start with all the mooning and swooning, but the firmness, the canons, the substructure, it just isn't there. They don't know the piece in the way that Earl Wild, Earl Wild, Chopin. This is a very complicated review. No, seriously, the way that Earl Wild is able to give us both shape and expression. That's the point. It's really a point. So this is a glorious recording on Ivory Classics, and if you haven't heard it, you owe it to yourself to listen to it. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.